to our program, Women Investing in Women. It is such an honor for Robin and I to bring and showcase impactful women who are leaning in to invest in other women and making this world a better place. Think about the reality that every living human being came into this world through a woman. We are the beginning of all life form. And we are the ones as women nurture and care and support life throughout all the stages of life. And as we are playing such an important role, a lot of what we do are taken for granted. Have you heard the saying, you never know your mother's value until her chair is empty? That is how women are treated in our society, but we can change this. We as women have never written our history. Men have written our history, right? So Robin and I want to take this opportunity to help us write our own history through the stories and commitment and work and purpose of different women, because the tapestry of all of us put together, that is our history. So Robin, as we get this show started, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest today?
Yes, I'm so thrilled to introduce Mary Lou Tierney. We met randomly at a Positive Living Experience conference. And then I saw her just a few days later, a post by her about women and Alzheimer's. And I was just so impressed with what she said. I thought, oh my gosh, we've got to have her on our program. And so Mary Lou, with that, I'm going to just pass the baton to you so you can tell our wonderful audience all about everything that you do and how you got into it. We'll ask you questions along the way, of course.
Thank you so much, Kaz and Rob. It's a real privilege and an honor to be on your program. And I really love this idea of us creating this tapestry, because we are all connected, and this is how we bring everything together. So I'm Mary Lou Tierney. I live north of Boston. I'll give you just a little bit of background, but then focus really into the topic that we're here to talk about today. So I'm formally trained as an industrial designer, a product designer, and I worked in innovation and strategy for 20 years and had a number of other careers before that. My mother in 2008, 2009 suffered rapid decline from vascular dementia, and she was in a locked facility. So as not her caretaker, but I did see her over the course of about 18 months. Then fast forward to 2017, I had some of my own health issues in terms of I had a cranial nerve malfunction where I actually lost hearing in one of my ears. And then 6 months later, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And I'll just say at this point, I'm convinced that was brought on by 20 years of chronic stress. So, but then I was sharing that this is just an observation. The standard of care of our medical system right now, for someone with a disease where we don't know the root cause, you're not left with very much you can do. So then this led to a course of studying different things like medical coding and billing, neuroscience, and the neurochemistry of self-talk and the brain, also our polyvagal theory and our vagus nerve. And then what happened was my mother-in-law, I became my mother-in-law's caregiver for 18 months. So I left my corporate job to be her caregiver. And what I want to say here is, what I know now is I didn't know at the moment where these challenges were going to lead me. And I'm so grateful for all of these little challenges that then turned into opportunities when I got enough distance. And through that time, I also ended up helping an author finish a book of how women could keep breast cancer out of their body based on the metabolic theory of cancer. And the real tipping point for me there was, I went to a scientific conference right before the shutdown of the pandemic, where I was immersed for 4 days, just hearing scientific paper after scientific paper after scientific paper from scientists and physicians all over the world. And I was like, wow, what rock have I been living under that I don't even know about this stuff? So that started a whole cascade of events where I became a board certified health and wellness coach, and I'm focused on metabolic and ancestral health, which led to discovering more about neuroscience and brain health, and finally to learning about the Bredesen Protocol, which is the first clinically proven protocol to prevent and reverse Alzheimer's disease. And it's a protocol that then helps our brain also remain resilient to the disease. And the other thing I'll say is I shared earlier, I was amazed at what I didn't know about metabolic health, about food, just about the body systems of how the body is designed to heal. And that when we start cleaning it up, it is this miraculous machine that is designed to keep us healthy and with its own ability to heal itself. So I'll stop there.
That's beautiful. Now, I know that you mentioned that you cared for your mother, you cared for another woman. Were those things the primary things that guided you towards women, or is there another interest that led you toward women?
So I was really thinking because you tipped. So I just have to say, I am standing on the shoulders of so many women who supported me, helped me, did things before me. Going all the way back to my mother was quite the trailblazer of her time. I went to an all-girls school in Montreal, and my teachers there were amazing. I had a different career as a professional chair umpire, where I was one of 5 women in the world certified to chair men's matches. But I had so many great women mentors helping me, and it's my time to reach back, and I do other things to support young women in academia, and just paying it forward and giving back the way so many fantastic women gave to me.
That is such a beautiful connection you're making here. And I love the way you phrased that question, Robin. Ultimately, we are all standing here because other women ennobled us, right? Women pour into other women because that's how women live life. They're not given the credit for it. That's part of the tapestry we have to weave by paying it forward and recognizing the women who have ennobled us, and then taking that ennobling and passing it forward. So I love what I'm hearing. It really speaks to my heart and resonates for me. As you are doing this work with women with Alzheimer's to be preventative, one of the questions that comes to my mind is, we as women, data shows that $1 billion worth of work is done by women all over the world for no pay, absolutely no pay. It's kinship work, community work, family work. And the definition of work has been put in place by men, and work is only defined as paid work. Mm-hmm. We have to get up at 4 o'clock and finish things we need to do to then go to work, come back, and then we have to finish up at home, right? When a man says he's going to sleep, he can go to sleep. A woman has to close down the house. Yeah. So all of this takes a toll cumulatively on a woman's life. And when you're a caregiver as well, that takes twice thrice as much of a toll. And we do become caregivers in our mid-stage, right? We take time to give birth, we take time to caregive. We're constantly taking time and we're depriving ourselves. Talk to us about how the cumulative effect works and how can we lean in and help each other so that we start breaking this cycle, because it's going to take women stepping in to help women.
Absolutely. And can I ask, did you say $1 billion?
$1 billion every day.
Oh, every day. Okay. Because I've heard of, yeah, 270 billion, totally. Yeah. And the other thing I heard, just to that, I was speaking to a colleague yesterday, and she was saying, you know, she has a friend who's a financial planner who said women have to financial plan differently than men. So because they are at risk for this disease, let's say, because they are the caregiver, because they don't make it, we still have pay inequity. So we're not making as much in the first place. And then the fourth piece of this, which I think is really concerning for me, well, to share for everyone, is think about these women are probably in the age bracket of, let's say, 45 to 55. And so I just want to make it like, I applied for over 200 jobs and I just spent years trying to get back in the workforce and I couldn't get back in. So, you know, you have to think you have to believe it's ageism. So it's even harder if you're a caregiver who is because of the familial structure. It's the woman that gives up her career to be the caregiver, and then you may not ever get back in the workforce. I will say there are some organizations which do try to help women get back in the workforce. So I would say that's one thing, is if you know, and Robin, you and I talked, I mean, women we have a lot of wisdom, we have a lot of resilience, and I'm going to say we have a lot of really good, great work ethic that I hear employers wish were more pervasive throughout their group. The other thing I would say is, you know, this has real deep generational impact also, and I'm especially concerned on the financial side of things. So I think it's just, you know, how, and where I'm really focused on the education is how do we get the word out that this is preventable. We're learning. Maria Shriver, I'm not sure, she's people know she's a celebrity here in the US. Her father suffered from Alzheimer's, and she started an organization called Women Alzheimer's Movement. The Cleveland Clinic now has a women's Alzheimer's center. So this idea that, you know, how do we bring more attention to this idea of what it means for women to get Alzheimer's, because our bodies and our brains are different. Actually, a woman goes through 3 significant brain changes in her life, where men go through only 2. You asked me, you know, practically and tactically, how we could support each other. You know, I think one way is, let's say on that employer spectrum end, but just if you know somebody's a caregiver, you know, what kind of a respite care support thing could you do? You know, you talked about the burden of the caregiving, and then the probably maybe a job also, and then the house, being aware of how we might be able to support people, and then really looking at what we're eating. I mean, my first step is the food. The food is so critical. and or what we're not only just consuming, but breathing and what we're putting on our skin. So actually cosmetics and, you know, lotions and things we put on our hair and everything, those are all things we can look at to lower our toxic burden personally. I'm not sure, am I answering your question?
Yes, you are. You are. And I'm glad you're going to a place where literally you're saying, get back to nature. Mother Nature has given us everything we need. Commercializing products and profiting from it has not helped mankind. It has helped corporations, right? So I grew up in Sri Lanka in the Ayurvedic tradition. We never used shampoo. We would boil lime and fenugreek. Fenugreek is mehathi seed, and it breaks in the boiling process, and it is like a shampoo and conditioner. And then the lime takes the dandruff and clears the scalp. And we would use sesame oil. We'll warm sesame oil with hibiscus flowers and curry leaf, and we keep it in a jar. And every Saturday, the whole family sits, every person sits on a step below the other, and we give each other a shoulder and a head massage. And Saturday ritual is that, and then everybody one by one goes and takes a shower, right? These traditions, living with nature, embracing what nature has, is huge. How can we help women get back to it? If all the women don't have time for it, maybe there's a commercial opportunity for a group of women to do this and make it available so that we create employment opportunities as well as better caretaking for women themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that with the two of you, both of you focus a lot on the mindset and what I'll also call mind shift. And I think we have to help women understand you must take that time for yourself. Stop giving away your time and your power and your health. And one of the best ways, I think, even so, I just learned a whole bunch of breath techniques that are focused on the nervous system. And if we can just spend 20 to 30 minutes, well, let's say 8 to 10 minutes, 3 times a day, just for our nervous system, we owe that to ourselves. So, you know, how do we help women also say, you must take this time for yourself? It's critical. Yeah. And what I love about the breath work also is I'm so top of mind about access, and it's something, you know, what are these things that you can do anytime, anywhere, and that don't carry a burden of cost, financial cost. Or for some of this breath work, I'm thinking, you know, especially with Alzheimer's patients, I mean, the challenges are so significant for this caregiver and so stressful. It's like, I just, you know, if you have to go in the bathroom by yourself for 5 minutes just to reset your nervous system, you know, so critical to have some of these, I call them, you know, in your back pocket tools.
I'm really fascinated about what you said about food, especially as we were chatting earlier before the program started recording, and where you were saying that here you have a master's degree, et cetera, and there was so much that you just didn't know about food and how it affects us physically, mentally, et cetera, and especially with women. Do you want to, can you say a few words about that?
So from a high level, it's just around, you know, if you start to look at, you know, we hear like, oh, don't eat processed food or that, but when you really dive into it, and I'll say I recently saw a label of a type of cookie or biscuit here in the States, and I'm not going to say the company, but I applaud them because they actually said, like, these are food-like substances. So we have to understand that this highly processed food, is not food. It's like actually not food, it's chemicals. And, I just lost my train of thought, but it's not really food. And then digging down deeper into, understanding. So Dr. Lustig is, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he published a book recently, about a year ago, called Metabolical, combining the words of metabolic and diabolical, where he talks about the food industry, healthcare, and whatnot. And I'm going to say, especially in the US, what is allowed to get into our food supply system is very different than what other countries. So almost consider that if it comes in a bag, a box, or a can, it's not safe to eat, or really look at the label.
That totally resonates, right? When we go to the grocery store, the key is to shop in the perimeter. What nature made is in the perimeter. Every aisle is what man made, right? And man made is chemicals. I used to be a CFO for a major insurance brokerage firm in the United States. And we did risk management for all the food production companies. All US food manufacturers have a US division and an international division, because what they are allowed to sell in the United States, they couldn't even export to a third world country, because the regulations prevent intentionally killing their citizens. But I don't understand why we don't like regulation, but we welcome this in the name of cheap food. We're harming our health. And in retirement, $1 million is more than enough to live. You need at least 3 to 5 million for your health care. It's the healthcare part that is cost prohibitive. And I'm also seeing a trend of older couples divorcing so as to not to bankrupt the other, as one of these diseases become part of the family.
Wow.
My husband has suggested that to me as we are dealing with some of what we are dealing with. And having been raised in the American culture, he's American. Yes, we've converted him to island food, East Indian and Mediterranean food over the years, but some of the damage was already done.
Yeah. And just to put a pin in your question, Robin, so I ended up using an app called Chronometer, Chronometer, which also the Bredesen Protocol recommends using. And that's where I learned a lot about food. And so I'll just add one more practical tip around this idea of empty calories, or what it's really in the micronutrients. So look, we have an issue with how sugar is on food labels, and the Chronometer app, I say with my coaching clients too, like, I'm not saying you have to use it forever, but by using it, that's where I learned where was the most nutrient dense food. I would look at, if I ate breakfast and lunch, I would see what the profile was, and then I'd plug in different things to say, okay, so I just wasn't knowledgeable down to that level. And just to tie it to, there's 2 body states which are really helpful for metabolic health and brain health, which is something called getting into ketosis, where our brain loves that fuel. And then there's another state called autophagy, and that's the state where we actually clean out all the dead cells in our body, so that those new younger ones can come in and just do that great work that they're designed to do. And
No,
it's triggered by food.
What are some of the challenges that you've run into, both internal challenges and external challenges, as you've been finding your way down this path?
I'll say a couple of things. First of all, about the Bredesen Protocol, people said, well, I've never heard of it. Why doesn't my doctor tell me about it? So some resistance to it. And, like any new, it's not standard of care. And what I also know about from innovation and strategy, though, you know, these really innovative approaches, they have to start somewhere. And so there naturally is going to be resistance. Another challenge is I've worked with a lot of women with food and sugar addiction. And when they're not successful one day, the way they beat themselves up is excruciatingly painful to witness. So like you with mindset, one of the very first things I teach them is about the neurochemistry of the brain and how to move from amygdala hijacked to prefrontal cortex so that they notice. And I call them out with the language that they use on themselves. And I've actually tested, I have them do a test when I do a 90-day program at the beginning, at the end. And I'm proud to say, by the end of the 90 days, their healthy self-talk thoughts are significantly increased. And then I see a direct correlation with healthy self-care. So it's really just the way we beat ourselves up is stunning. And then I think it's just the prevalence of the societal challenges. And again, I'll speak specifically about women. You know, a lot of women come to this and want to make a change, but if they don't have a spouse, or they're fighting their spouse or their family or their environment because they're trying to do this alone. And so my hope also is that I'm building a great community where people can find support when they don't necessarily have it in their home.
Beautiful.
Those are such important elements you're bringing up, Mary Lou. So as we start wrapping this up, there's so much wisdom, so much insight you have shared. We would love for our followers and those who are listening to this to be able to reach out to you, because the only way we're going to break the cycle is for us to lean in and have you share your contact information so that other women can reach you and you can help them. And together we start building a better life for ourselves.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. People can email me, Mary Lou at Simply Better Brain. So Mary Lou is MARYLOU, just like you see on the screen, at simplybetterbrain.com. And my website is www.simplybetterbrain.com. And you can join my mailing list. And when you do that, I actually have a handout of what I call the core 4, which are the 4 principles for prevention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Lou. Robin, any closing thoughts?
Well, we probably don't have a lot of time to delve into this. We might have to have you back again. But I was very struck when we were talking earlier that you said you left your corporate job to care for your mother-in-law. And after she passed away, you tried to get back into the corporate world, applied to 200 jobs, and no one would take you because now you're this older woman trying to come back to the workforce. I was stunned by that because, as you said, you know, we have a lot of wisdom, fabulous work ethic, a lot of resilience. We can help mentor the younger generation. And so I'm just so proud of you that you took that and said, okay, then I'll just make my own company and I'll just do my own thing. And so I think that should be a lesson to corporate America, that older women have a lot to offer, especially those who've sacrificed by stepping away to be a caregiver and then coming back. They should be moved to the head of the line. So thanks for your wealth of wisdom on multiple levels.
Oh, boy.
And
It's my pleasure.
And that is such a brilliant point you resurfaced, Robin and Mary Lou. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that, because most women don't want to share it because somehow they feel like it's putting themselves down. But what the world doesn't realize, and I'm going to quote one of my favorite poets, Rumi, he talks about how none of us are a single drop. We are an entire ocean in one drop, right? So as mothers, as women, as caregivers, we are the entire ocean of our family, of our community. And if people don't see the value in it, then we can support each other and showcase our value, and people will come. So to me, one of the joys of doing this program with Robin is every week we are going to get an opportunity to showcase women and show the world how every woman is an entire ocean in a single drop. And when we get together, we can create a tsunami if we choose to.
Beautiful.
It's so beautiful. And I just want to thank you so much and your community and what you're sharing and how you're bringing us together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And go out there, ladies, and keep transforming the world as you're always doing. But please take a moment to transform your own.